Good evening. Hi, Ash. Welcome back. Thank you for coming out in the cold, dark. I was just thinking it's 3 days. 3 days till solstice. Turning to the light. Is there anyone here for the first time? Oh, nice. Come back. Come back again. Welcome. It's nice to have you. This is the last Dharma talk for a few weeks, and it's the last Dharma talk before Christmas. And so I was thinking about what I really cared to talk about and bring up, and I want to talk about gifts. And so the name of my talk is Giver, Receiver, and Gift. We have a teaching about that, many actually. But the reason I wanted to talk about it is because of Christmas, which is a lovely religious holiday for some and a secular holiday for many of us who grew up in this culture. And I really recognized that for myself, I need to rediscover giving and gifts in the context of, well, many contexts, but in the context of things like presence. Because I feel like many of us, I get really lost in the material culture that we live in, and it gets hard to go to the store because of kind of how we've come to misunderstand, I think, what is a beautiful practice. And I was thinking about this. Some of you know Wendy Johnson is a dear friend of Upaya, and she comes several times a year and never crosses the threshold without her little bag of gifts. And there's lemon balm from her garden, and there's Peter's apple butter that he makes from their apples. And she just really embodies to me this joy of abundance and loving to give and to share. And so thinking of her and thinking also of the indigenous peoples in this land and what a different way we can learn from some of their practices also. So you'll hear me talking about quite a few things from Braiding Sweetgrass, which is just one lesson after another from Robin Wall Kimmerer about abundance, about reciprocity, about what we can learn from the natural world, and how we can rest a little bit in the fact that so much is given to us. And I'm going to start with a couple of kind of what sound to me like necessary, harsh lessons about our consumerism. So I'll start with one thing that Robin Wall Kimmerer writes. She says, "We perpetrate the illusion that the things we consume have just fallen off the back of Santa's sleigh, not been ripped from the earth." Not been ripped from the earth. And she says, this illusion enables us to imagine that the only choices we have are between brands. So I really appreciate the deep looking we have to do, but also it's joined by this way that we can understand the abundance of this earth, and the way that we can come to understand that it's enough, and that we are enough. We're enough just as we are. And I think all of this is a part of that teaching. So can we penetrate this original spirit in Buddhism as well of the love that's behind gift giving and that's behind this circle of reciprocity? And that gift giving is relational. And I think that's the most important thing. It's relational, it's not transactional. And, originally, even the gifts from the earth, we're in a relationship as we harvest with what we harvest. So this is really about waking up to what we do in the area of giving and receiving, not to scold or shame, but really just to rediscover this beauty that I feel when Wendy hands me her little handful of lemon balm that she's grown so that I can enjoy it as tea. And I'll be talking about the first paramita, which is dana paramita, the practice of giving or generosity. And it's the first of the 6 paramitas, which hold us in this way of life that we take up as practitioners, because it has such a spirit of opening us up to what's possible, and opening us up to this spirit of that all of life is always giving and receiving at the same time, giving and receiving. And it's a spirit of life and of joy, and not of extraction. So we have a roommate in our house, which has been really a joy. And so she's in my office. That's her space now, in this office that I have. And so there was a little nook to one side of our kitchen, and I set up my office there, and I sit there with a really beautiful pinon tree out the window. And I had my Dharma books all around, and I was thinking about what we learn from the earth, and how to talk about generosity in a way that might really penetrate. And so there's a little room, there's a little old kitchen table, really small, where my computer is. But above me right now, in this little nook, there's probably 40 ears of corn hanging. And then in another room that we use as a studio, there's probably another 40 ears. And these 40 ears, which I brought one so that you could see. This is white ceremonial corn, and it was given to us by Roxanne Swensel, who grows beautiful food, and Upaya grows some of her corn, and she does this for all people, actually, and for her people as a seed saver, and grows things out and asks people to grow things out. And I brought 2 because I realized about halfway through this harvest, we would open these corn and we would be so excited, and they would be so fat, and we hung them up to dry. And we also have our share that looks like this. And I thought, yeah, equally appreciate the little ones that this is who they are. The little ones. So I'm bringing this up as a context to start talking about gifts. And the story of us growing this corn, it could be a sitcom. We were graciously given this because we were farmers for 40 years, but we were also farmers in California who didn't grow corn, who are used to things like soil and water. So we really cared about honoring this corn and this gift. And some Upaya residents helped us fence off a little area, and we had another little area. And then we started going on to YouTube, like, what about the mice? We have so many mice in El Dorado. So time and again, we're going back and we're figuring it out, and we're carrying buckets of water because it's all, we mostly use catchment water or water we save from the kitchen. So we're carrying our buckets of water and we're tending this corn. And one thing we read was that to protect it from the crows, which we also have, and the mice, you can put socks on it. So at a certain point, I think Roxanne would, who knows? Well, I know what she would do. She would be laughing hilariously, but we had some Christmas socks that someone had given us with little sparkles, and our whole little corn patch was covered with socks, which we never did figure out if it was a good idea, but honestly, we struggled and we laughed. And part of the story is how joyful it was to receive this gift and to care for it as best we could, which was, with so much heart and not very much knowledge. And we have 80 ears of corn to return to Roxanne of this ceremonial corn. And part of what I appreciate about that is that every piece of this story was a gift. For us, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to give back, and then to be with what's all given originally, which was the soil and the sun and the air and all the little beings in the Santa Fe soil. So it was a gift of being a participant, caring for this corn and participating, and also witnessing what is really life's abundance. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer says, the land is the real teacher. And this was definitely true in our corn experiment. But, it's where we can learn, where we can see reciprocity. And then she says, the land is the real teacher. All we need to do as students, all we need is mindfulness. Paying attention is a form of reciprocity with the living world. Just paying attention and caring for things. She writes, we're all bound in a covenant of reciprocity. Plant breath for animal breath, winter and summer, predator and prey, grass and fire, night and day, dying and living. Water knows this, clouds know this, soil and rocks know this. They know they're dancing in a continuous giveaway of making, unmaking, and making the earth again. So I just really want to acknowledge and give a deep bow to her teaching. We always honor our teachers when we give talks, and our beautiful Buddhist teachers, some of whom are sitting in the back here, and all that we teach each other, but also want to acknowledge our indigenous teachers for just, trying to help us, trying to remind us of how to honor this life. So I would say in our Buddhist teachings and in the indigenous teachings, kind of at the core of this is this flow of abundance, this understanding of generosity, is that everything's freely given and that it's a one-body activity, a one-body dance, a flow of life giving to life. And it's our understanding our interdependence. And if you really feel yourself connected, then generosity is nothing but an appropriate response. It's not something special. It's not something noble. It's just the appropriate acknowledgement that of our interdependence and of all that we're given. And of course, when we truly see this, our question is, how can I give back? How can I repay this generosity? Kimmerer writes, generosity is simultaneously a moral and a material imperative, especially among people who live close to the land and know its waves of plenty and scarcity, where the well-being of one is linked to the well-being of all. And I think one of the reasons it's hard for us to really stay rooted just in our bodies this interdependence is because most of us live close to the land. We don't live as one body in community. We barely know where our food comes from. And so it makes it hard, to constantly remind ourselves that, in fact, the things we consume haven't fallen out of the back of Santa's sleigh, have been ripped from the earth, or been fabricated in what we used to call sweatshops. So we just have to remember that we can't keep turning away. We have to remember that because everything is given in the way that it is, we have to take care of everything, to show respect for those lives and labors. We all are consumers. It's part of being living beings. But to take care of what we're given happily, with gratitude, and a spirit of abundance it's uplifting. It's just uplifting. And we live in a culture that's a throwaway culture. And we have to just keep reminding ourselves. It's so easy to forget. We're just constantly looking really deeply into the heart of how things come to us. So 2 more difficult questions that I think are important to bring up before we turn to looking more deeply at Dana Paramita. These are questions that Kimmerer gives us, and they're penetrating, and not to be asked from guilt or blame, but just from love. She says, perhaps we can think of the honorable harvest as a mirror by which we judge our purchases. What do we see in the mirror? A purchase worthy of the lives consumed? And then addressing our consumption of fossil fuels. She says, the code we might ask of any harvest, including energy, is that our purpose be worthy of the harvest. So it's just care and connection. It's just care and connection and patience with ourselves too, and all that we forget and just starting again. But challenging this tendency to kind of look away, from the harm caused by our scarcity mind. And the good news is that for our hearts and ourselves, when we keep turning toward interdependence, let ourselves feel into it, let go a little bit of our self-clinging and this narrow state of mind, which is really alienating and fearful. We're brought into a more spacious and inspired sense of the world. And truly, and I know that you've experienced this, the more we open our hands, the more we give, the more joyful we are, the wealthier we feel. If I feel like I don't have enough, I think of the monkey's hand in the jar of candy, and you can't, if you open your hand, it falls out, but you can't get your hand out of the jar because you're so busy grasping. This poverty mind is just suffering. And so joyful to honor giving and receiving, both the honor of giving and the humility of receiving just comes around. So Dana Paramita is the first of the paramitas or perfections of generosity. And as I've been saying, it's really completely centered in our realization of non-separation and learning to see ourselves as impermanent expressions of life, moment by moment, and then reminding ourselves that the illusion that we're separate just hurts. It causes suffering and fear and alienation. Scarcity mind, feeling that we're not okay. We just need to kind of turn toward the Dharma, the teaching that we're not little separate suffering beings, that's not necessary, that there's this other joyous dance that's going on if we just keep opening our hands. Reb Anderson, in his book about Dana Paramita, opens it up in an even wider way. He says, generosity attends and responds with kindness to whatever turns up, including people and events we find challenging. Generosity is graciously receiving all aspects of our life. So to welcome everything is generosity. And to welcome everything is also letting go of fear. Because when we welcome everything, we're right there in our life and we know that we can live it. We know that we can do it. We know that we can respond in a heartfelt way. So traditionally in Buddhism, there are three kinds of giving. There's giving of material things, which we've talked about a little bit. There's the gift of the Dharma and the gift of fearlessness. And there's also kind of embedded in there a lot of other things that we give, like our attention, the gift of listening, the gift of effort, creativity, gift of honesty. So many things we give each other. Or to write a poem or to make a painting is a gift. Cleaning your room is a gift. Cooking a meal, sweeping a sidewalk. Dogen, in his fascicle, Four Methods of Guidance for Bodhisattvas, the first method of guidance is generosity. And he writes that to launch a boat, to build a bridge, to earn a living, are all acts of giving, just engaging, wholeheartedly in what's in front of us, all acts of giving, and accepting what each moment has to offer, generosity. So here's a very small Zen story by Zhang. Some of you know some of his stories. So a monk asked Master Baizhang why giving is the gateway to the Bodhisattva path as the first of the paramitas. And Baizhang says, because to practice giving is to practice letting go. And to practice letting go is to practice waking up, is to practice freedom. So then the monk asked Baizhang, what do you let go of? And Baizhang said, you let go of narrow views. You let go of the idea that things are small and tight, graspable and possessible. So if you really take a minute and feel into what it would be like to let go of the idea that things are small and tight and graspable, there's a really vast, lovely feeling of freedom that comes with that. So then there's the work, kind of the work of looking at our stinginess, basically. So we have to study our own minds and see what comes up and understand our kind of stinginess. So because this is my way with Dharma Talks, it wouldn't be complete unless I shared at least a few embarrassing shortcomings. So I'm going to do it about stinginess. I was thinking, ooh, what am I stingy about? Ice cream. I look at Chuck's bowl, I look at my bowl. I look at Chuck's bowl, I look at my bowl. Or I serve them up and then I look at which one I'm going to offer him, which one I'm going to keep for myself. Another place I'm stingy is French fries. I watch how many he's taking because we always share meals because we can't eat that much. If he's going into my half, come on, Monshin. But we do, we have small things that we're greedy about that we can laugh about. And we have other things that we cling to that really feel like fetters, And those probably are harder to see, at least for me. I can see the ice cream, but I probably can't see, some of that deeper holding on to things. Maybe my reputation, or another thing I notice that I'm stingy about is credit. I have this thing about not money credit, but if I have an idea or do something, I have this stinginess about wanting to get credit for it. So I don't know what that's about, but it's, if we can just look with loving attention at the places where we really we just don't want to let go, then little by little, we'll get closer to moving in a way that things don't feel small and tight, in a way that's generous and expansive. And that's a beautiful freedom to move towards. So I want to say a few things about the other two aspects of giving, besides material things. And with material things, we just have to realize that they're not ours to begin with, that everything moves through and is given to us. And even our qualities, I was thinking about this, like if I want to puff myself up because I'm generous, for example, or anything like that, all of it is just come to me from every person I've ever known, from my life, it's just all what we've received. And so giving back is just, as I was saying before, recognizing that it's not due to my anything to begin with. It's just life being shared. So the second aspect of giving is sharing the Dharma. And Reb writes something very opening about this, because giving a talk is sharing the Dharma. Writing books is sharing the Dharma. Talking to friends about the Dharma is sharing the Dharma. But he says this, he says we share the Dharma, and sharing the Dharma includes letting ourselves be ourselves and letting others be themselves, and not being attached to our thoughts, not being attached to our feeling. This is sharing the Dharma. And sharing the Dharma is also how we live, above anything that any of us might read or say, or that I might sit here in the Dharma seat and say, how about how we live as the most important way to share the Dharma? How about how we live and how we are with each other? That's how we teach ourselves the Dharma. That's how we share the Dharma. And not just by the wonderful things that we do, but we share the Dharma when we fall down and get back up again. All of it, just living together and not hiding. That's sharing the Dharma. And then the gift of fearlessness, which we were talking, which I brought up earlier, includes welcoming everything. Because just giving itself actually frees us from fear. Because it's fearing us from this scarcity mind, this I have to hold on because I'm not enough and I don't have enough and I won't be taken care of. When we give freely, that kind of scarcity mind actually disappears, because we're participating in this circle of giving and receiving. And when we welcome everything, we also become fearless, because we see, as I said before, that, yeah, I can meet this moment. I can welcome everything that the moment has to offer. And the most inspiring thing that I read as I was looking at teachings and thinking about these three kinds of generosity is from Norman Fisher. Here's what he says about giving the gift of fearlessness. You give the gift of fearlessness by giving love, because when you feel loved, you feel confident. You let others know that they matter, are respected and cared for, and that they're secure within a loving reality. This is how you give the gift of fearlessness, by letting people know that they're loved, that they're important, that they're seen. And he goes on, to be capable of giving fearlessness to others, you must have the genuine confidence that there really is nothing to fear, because love actually is built into the order of reality. It's not just a good idea. You feel it in your bones. It comes forth from your practice. And this is a lot to ask and a lot to learn, because we look out in the world and we don't necessarily see that love is built into the order of reality. And I think this kind of confidence comes from our practice and comes from welcoming everything, comes from meeting the moments that are here for us as best we can with what we have, with the ingredients that we have. And it's not to say that harm isn't done and bad things don't happen, but it's just to say that we can be with it. We can be with impermanence. We can be in this flow of life that's arising and passing. So there's lots of practicalities that I'm not going to talk about, which is, when do I give? How much do I give? Does this giving cause harm? If I give this to my child, is it actually beneficial? So we have to ask those kinds of questions when we look at our giving and our skillfulness in that, but always just from this place of trust and abundance, from that place. And then we discern as best we can if our gift is beneficial, or if maybe we're giving out of some sense of lack, or some sense of this fixing a person. There's lots of ways to be unskillful, but we just keep asking ourselves and doing our best and realizing that we have so much to give. I didn't bring these quotes in, but Dogen, when he talks about giving, also says, you can give a flower to a flower. You can give a mountain to a mountain. It's all ours to participate in. So we don't have to feel like we're too small, or that what we have to give doesn't matter, because it always does. Even if it's, I don't know how many of you are parents, but one of those little cardboard cutout Santas with macaronis stuck, you know, the macaroni art? It's beautiful. It's always beautiful. So I'm just to end with a word from Robin Wall Kimmerer. A gift is different from something you buy, possessed of meaning outside its material boundaries. And then she reminds us, you never dishonor a gift. A gift asks something of you, to take care of it. Even if it's months of taking care of corn when we didn't know how, that was the gift. The gift was to take care of it, but a gift asks something of you. It asks you to take care of it. Thanks. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it.
Thank you, dear Sensei Monshin. If I told you that talk was corny, would it be offensive? That was a corny joke, I'm sorry. Thank you so much.